Ever since India has kept in abeyance the Indus Water Treaty, which is an outdated water treaty, Pakistan is working overtime to build up a narrative and take the help of its all-weather friend China. Now, the Indus Water Treaty is definitely an outdated treaty because Pakistan has been enjoying all the benefits under the Indus Water Treaty, despite the poor relations between the two countries. Despite Pakistan's terror attacks over the years, India has been continuing honoring the Indus Water Treaty, and Pakistanis have been benefiting from the Indus river waters. Now, after the Pahalgam attack on April 22, India has come up with a water strike as well, apart from other strikes, both militarily, economically, and diplomatically. India has also carried out a water strike in the form of withdrawing the Indus Water Treaty and keeping it in abeyance. Now, after this, what is happening after this is that Pakistan, as I said, is working overtime, trying to influence the Chinese, policy analysts and advisors, people close to the government, by trying to build up a narrative that if China wants, they can come up with a tit-for-tat response in favor of Pakistan by stopping flow of the river Brahmaputra. Now, as we know, the river Brahmaputra originates from the Angsi Glacier in Tibet. It's a Tibetan river. It originates from China and it enters India through that massive bend, U-bend near Arunachal Pradesh. Now that we all know that Brahmaputra has its origins in the Angsi Glacier in Tibet, and in China it is known as the Yarlung Changpo. Now what the Chief Minister has said is that what the Chinese and some Chinese at least, or the Pakistanis, are saying that what if China stops Brahmaputra water to India? Now this is what the Chief Minister of Assam, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, wants to allay the apprehension. They're saying that what Himanta Biswa Sharma is saying, that the Brahmaputra originates in China, no doubt, but China contributes only 30 to 35% of the Brahmaputra's total flow, and that is a fact, because this 30 to 35% of the Brahmaputra's water is contributed by China, mostly through glacial melt and limited Tibetan rainfall. But the remaining 70% of the Brahmaputra's water is sourced from within the country. Now, how is the remaining 70% generated? It is generated from the torrential monsoon rainfall in Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Nagaland, Meghalaya, and so on. And major tributaries like the Subansiri, the Lohit, Kameng, Manas, Dhansiri, Jiabharali, Kopili, these are the major tributaries of the Brahmaputra. They contribute a lot to the Brahmaputra's water flow, and additional inflows are also there into the Brahmaputra from the Khasi, Garo, and Jaintia hills via rivers such as the Krishna, Digaru, and Kulsi. Apart from rivers in Bhutan, they also contribute to the volume of water in the Brahmaputra. Now, if you look at this is a fact also given by the Chief Minister, which actually is the case, that if you look at the Indo-China border, like in Tutin, for example, right at the India-China border, the flow of the river Brahmaputra, is just 2,000 to 3,000 cubic meters per second. It just at Tutin, right at the border with China, in the Brahmaputra's flow is just about 2,000 to 3,000 cubic meters per second. But if you come into the farther into the Assam plains, for example in Guwahati, the flow, if you measure, it is up to 15,000 to 20,000 cubic meters per second. That is, of course, during the monsoon. Therefore, what we can say, what the Chief Minister is trying to say, is that Brahmaputra river is not dependent on China, is not dependent. It may be a lower riparian river, but it is not dependent on upstream. It is a rain-fed Indian river system strengthened after entering Indian territory. That is what the Chief Minister has said. But but China is trying to utilize its upper riparian location, upper upstream location to create it into a geopolitical tool. China is attempting to use the river Brahmaputra as a geopolitical tool against India. This is nothing new. This is absolutely nothing new. This has been the case from a long time. Now what China is trying to do is that they are trying to build dams on the Brahmaputra. They have built a massive dam called the Jangnu Dam. It was operationalized in 2015, but it has not impacted India. When the Jangnu Dam was being constructed, there were a lot of apprehensions on the Indian side by the Indian analysts and security watchers, saying that, oh, what is going to happen after the Jangnu Dam is built? But nothing much has impacted as far as India is concerned, even after the Jangnu Dam became operationalized in 2015, because that is a run of the river dam. That's a run of the river dam. But what is of some interest and concern to us in India now is China's plan to construct or build what is called a huge dam, which is triple the size of the Three Gorges Dam, which is currently the biggest dam in the world. Now, this dam which China is trying to construct is in the Tibet's Madok country. Imagine the scale of this dam, because it is a $137 billion project. $137 billion project. So that itself explains the scale of this project, because China wants to elevate this river from a geographical marvel to a geopolitical flashpoint, and from a geographical marvel, Brahmaputra may become a geopolitical flashpoint if Beijing is able to actually translate its dream into reality, that is by constructing the $137 billion biggest hydropower project in the world, much bigger, 3 times bigger than the Three Gorges Dam. Now, what is the utility of this dam as and when it comes up, or if it comes up at all? It is going to produce 60 gigawatt of electricity, and it is going to become the most powerful hydroelectric project in history, and it is located just 30 kilometers away from the border with India. Now, on the surface, this might look like, there is every reason to panic. But at the end of the day, we must also understand that there are a lot of hydrological challenges involved, because this is a hugely voluminous river, and it is these kind of projects are going to come up in a extremely geologically unstable Himalayan region. Therefore, there are a lot of hydrological challenges, and it is not that the Chinese are going to be able to make this dam overnight. But considering the fact that China, being a communist country, being a dictatorial regime, they do not have to bother about public opinion. They have some kind of an advantage. Now, at the end of the day, if we look at the relations between India and China, it is not just that simple. China may have weaponized water. China has already securitized water. Water is very much a security tool as far as China is concerned, because during the monsoon season, yes, we have an advantage, because 70% of the Brahmaputra river is rain-fed during monsoons and by its various tributaries. But in the dry season, the situation may be slightly different, because that is, if the dry season China decides to control the water flow, then there could be some impact, but that is for the hydrologists and water experts to talk about. I will not go into that detail. But is it that simple? Is China going to really strike or really use water as a weapon? Things are not so simple, because the Sino-Indian border dispute is not something that has been going on in the last few years. It has been going on for decades. Despite that, India and China has maintained some kind of a relationship. Now, the India-China dynamic, India-China bilateral dynamic is extremely layered. It is not just one layer, it is multiple layers, because despite the ongoing border tension, especially in the Galwan Valley during that clash, despite that, both nations have continued its diplomatic and military level engagements. Therefore, they have been able to scale down the confrontation along each other's borders. So it is because course, the Chinese and the Indians have gone on with the diplomatic and military level contact. That's the reason why I say the China-India or Sino-Indian bilateral dynamic is a multi-layered dynamic. Now, India is not viewed by, again, we must also, I'd like to underscore this point that China does not view India as a sponsor of terrorism, whereas despite being a friend of Pakistan, China very well knows that Pakistan sponsors terror, and this fact provides New Delhi with a wider strategic latitude because India is not a sponsor of terrorism, whereas Pakistan is. China may be a friend of Pakistan and supplying its military hardware, but China also knows that India does not support terror, and therefore India has a lot of traction, positive traction around the international community. That is something which the Chinese know, and that is the reason why, despite this long-standing border dispute, Beijing has been now approaching New Delhi to resume direct international flights. That's a proposal that has come from Beijing. India is considering it, and very soon there will be direct flight. That communication links, direct flight air links was snapped during COVID-19 pandemic, and now the Chinese wants it back. And another thing, what we have seen in recent months is there was a clear-cut statement by the Chinese Consul General in Kolkata who said that relations need to improve. And China, of course, after the tariff war launched by President Trump during his 2.0 regime, China has suffered a lot of reverses as far as its economy is concerned, and India is a huge market. That is something which the Chinese have not lost sight of, and therefore the Chinese would not like to completely have a confrontationist approach with New Delhi. That is something which I don't think is going to happen. Now, of course, we have to also dynamics in the present time, the dynamics has further changed because now Bangladesh has become a friend of China, and if the Chinese are to stop water flow, Chinese are to use water as a security tool, then Bangladesh is also going to be affected. Its ally is also going to be affected because the Chinese found Bangladesh as a major arms market for the Chinese products, military hardware. So 70% of the Chinese military hardware are being procured these days from China, and that is also something which is a new dynamic that has emerged in the subcontinent, China becoming or Bangladesh becoming an ally of the China or vice versa. So these are some of the facts due to which the Chinese may not be easily able to use water as a geopolitical tool against India, although considering the fact that Chinese are located upstream, they definitely have a leverage, and there are 11 rivers, international rivers which flows out of China, but not a single river from anywhere in the world flows into China. Therefore, China being on the upper riparian definitely has the leverage. But as our Chief Minister, Assam Chief Minister Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma has said, it is easier said than done, and Pakistan is trying to build a scare by firing the gun from the Chinese soldiers.